Sit back down and shut your trap. It's time for
Keeping It Sports with M3.
Are you ready?
Are you ready?
Well, I'll need some beer.
Are you ready?
You have to ask me nicely.
Come on now, don't be bashful.
Are you ready? Are you ready for
Place for the best sports talk and news surrounding each league.
I can prove it with my usual flawless logic.
Hey, man, this time we're gonna do it my way.
What's your name again?
And now, here's your host, M3, Mike Rosansky. Coming to you from Cherry Hill, New Jersey, it's time for Keeping It Sports with M3, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Good afternoon, everyone. I am, of course, your host, Mike M3 Rosansky, coming to you on this Monday, the 27th day of July, final Monday of the month, about that halfway point in all of us' summer. Hope you're all doing well out there. Hope you're all off to a great start in your day, great start in your week, whatever it is you may be doing right now. Thank you for taking some time out. As always, whether you're watching the live feed of this podcast via YouTube or you just can't stand seeing my face but want to hear someone ramble on and rant about the sports world for an hour, I decided to check out the podcast version. Remember, you can find that through my Linktree page. Go to linktree.com, type in M3 Rosansky, that's M3 ROZANSKY, and the page should pop up for Keeping It Sports with M3. That page will provide the link to all of our social media feeds, whether it be the Facebook website for this podcast, my Twitter and Instagram pages, as well as the links for every one of the podcast outlets that you can find Keeping It Sports with M3 on each and every single week, including Podbean.com, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. All of them can be found through our Linktree page. Linktree, look it up under the name M3 Rosansky. Well, it finally happened. Took all of 24 long days, and it felt longer than that. But LeBron James finally made a decision. You knew when he announced his intentions of free agency on June 30th, and that he was not going to be re-signing with the Los Angeles Lakers. You had a feeling he was going to draw this thing out because it was not going to be about money this time around. It was not going to be about who could pay him the most because the Lakers were the only team due to his bird rights that could pay him $50+ million. He was going to be signing wherever he went for either the veteran minimum or the mid-level exception, somewhere along that range. He was going to take his time and view the landscape of the league. Now, he was annoying as hell the entire time with Rich Paul doing that podcast each and every single week with Max Kellerman, breaking this down, having people on there pleading to LeBron, saying, please, LeBron, come to our team, not understanding that this is a 41-year-old about to be 42-year-old, even despite him being probably the greatest 40-year-old player in NBA history. Some of the promoting, and I don't know whether you want to call it bribing or propping up some of these teams, some of these front office executives were doing was downright embarrassing at times, with certain executives sending him voicemail and these audio clips saying, this is why you should come to the Warriors. This is why you should come to the Cleveland Cavaliers. This is why you should come back to the Miami Heat. But in the end, he ends up joining what is on paper the best roster of those 4 teams that were in the mix of him. In the early hours of the day on Friday morning, I think it was around 11:30 on Friday morning that he actually made his decision. LeBron James announced to the world that he will be signing with the Philadelphia 76ers in what he says will be the last decision of his career. That remains to be seen, but as I said, he's 41 years old, going to be turning 42 in December. Signed a 2-year deal worth $8 million, the second year being a player option, and I'm sure he'll drag us through a Brett Favre-like song and dance pony show next year when it comes to making his decision on whether he'll play for a 25th season. But as of right now, he'll be taking his talents for the 24th season of his career to the city of brotherly love. Now, Rich Paul can say all he wants about how this was a emotional roller coaster, how it came right down to the wire. But you look at the teams that were in the mix here, the 4 teams that it came down to, the Cavs, the Miami Heat, the Golden State Warriors, and the Philadelphia 76ers. The Cleveland Cavaliers have really not done anything to upgrade their roster this offseason. In fact, they've lost players through free agency, including a key role player such as Dean Wade has departed from there. The Miami Heat made the big trade to go get Giannis Antetokounmpo, but they traded away a lot of their depth to get Giannis onto that team. And right now it's looking like a 2-man team of Giannis and Bam Adebayo. And you're looking around saying, damn, Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra have a lot of work to do to fill in the holes of this roster around these 2 great players. In the case of Golden State, in 2016, this would have been the greatest roster possibly of all time if you paired up LeBron James with Steph Curry, had Draymond Green there, had a healthy Jimmy Butler coming back at some point during this season. Even we heard the rumblings about them wanting to trade for Anthony Davis. But all of these guys are in their late 30s. LeBron's entering 40. Jimmy Butler's coming off of an ACL injury. And Anthony Davis, it does not seem he's going to be traded. And that's an underlying thing here that I guess we're going to have to wait to hear from LeBron, because at some point this week, you figure he's going to have a press conference. It's not just going to be this tweet that he sent out or the Instagram post that he put out there when he talked about why he made this decision, why he's going to Philadelphia. There's got to be a press conference where he's going to sit there in front of the media and answer questions. Was there any truth to the idea of wanting to reteam with Anthony Davis? Was he waiting to see if the Cavaliers could possibly make a trade for Kyrie Irving and we're going to move on from James Harden? So those are things I'm sure we'll hear in the coming days and weeks at some point when he meets in front of the media press conference. They got to figure ESPN, Fox Sports, they're all going to cancel whatever their previously scheduled programming were at that time slot and carry the LeBron James press conference live, considering for the last 25 years now, ever since he was in high school, they've followed every single move, every single moment that this guy has done, from entering the league as a 19-year-old rookie with the Cavaliers, to the fact that he's been an all-star every year of his career outside of that. The decision, winning multiple titles in Miami, going back to Cleveland, winning a championship in his second year back there. The change in going to LA and winning the bubble title with Anthony Davis in 2020. And now this what he claims will be his final decision of his career, going to the city of brotherly love. And you can't blame him. On paper, the roster looks unbelievable. But then again, there's a reason why this sport is played just like every other sport, with real living, breathing people. See, even for as much as AI is beginning to take over so many facets of our life, so many facets of our world, the great thing we know is that the sports world is still here and still played and done by real living, breathing human beings. We may not like how much of the analytics are involved in this crap from time to time when it comes to decisions that are made, but it's still human beings out there throwing the baseball, throwing the football, passing around the hockey puck, and in this case, passing around the basketball, where he joins a team in the 76ers that had a disappointing end to their season last year, getting swept out by the eventual champion New York Knicks. But they've made the moves necessary in what they hope is not a repeat in that. You thought that you were going to come into this season where the 76ers were going to be a Tyrese Maxey, BJ Edgecombe-led team. And while those guys still figure to be prominent players on this team, you wonder how much of their roles are going to be scaled back now. Because when you bring LeBron James onto a team, he's been one of the greatest passers in the history of the league. You saw with the Lakers last year, they went on their big run before injuries started to kick in, with LeBron James as the primary ball handler. You would figure that he's going to dominate in that kind of way on the nights that he's playing. I wouldn't expect him to go out there and play 65 to 70 games. I think it's going to be more in the somewhere between 50 and 60 game range and be fully ready to go for the postseason. But that's why you pay a guy like Tyrese Maxey. That's why you draft a player like BJ Edgecombe, who came of age in his rookie year last year. That's why you make the big move that shocked everyone a couple of weeks ago and traded an old Paul George and a bunch of draft picks to go get Jaylen Brown. As stacked on paper, this starting five looks, they've still got to gel together. They've still got to come together. It's very easy to fantasize about this, be excited about it, but this is not NBA 2K, the video game, where you can just put together an all-star team and it all works out depending on your video game playing level. These guys still got to go out there, figure out their roles, figure out who's going to sacrifice, who's going to fit in where on this starting five. I'll tell you what this does do. This takes a lot of pressure off of Joel Embiid. Yeah, he's a former league MVP. Yeah, he's a fascinating talent, but his worst ability is his availability. He's a guy that's constantly hurt, hasn't played more than 60 games in a season in over 3 years. The last 3 years, you look at it, it's 39, 19, and 38 as far as games played. He's a walking injury waiting to happen. But now he's essentially the fifth option in a lineup that is going to have Brown, James, Maxey, and Edgecombe. And you just hope that Joel Embiid is healthy and ready to go once you get to the postseason. That's what a move like this is done for. It's not done for the regular season. It's about getting to the playoffs. It's about putting yourself in the best opportunity to win a championship when all is said and done. And I'm sure, there'll be other moves that are made along the way at the trade deadline, whether it be adding an extra big or adding a guard off the bench, something along that line. No one's ever a truly finished product in the off season. I mean, hell, you look at the Knicks this past year. They made moves during the season. They went and added Jose Alvarado, and he turned out to be an indispensable member of that bench going down the stretch. So, yeah, you get all your sexy moves done here in the off season, and then during the regular season, you just tweak it a little bit. This decision, it was honestly annoying watching this as a fan because of a couple of things. The everyday updates from Rich Paul, who can be a very annoying person, even as successful as he is with his career, he can be an annoying person to listen to in interviews and on podcasts. But the ripple effect, how this was holding up so many other things in the league beyond just what the Cavaliers were re-signing James Harden or Draymond Green's next contract or what the Heat were going to do beyond Giannis. Adam Silver said it a couple weeks ago. They weren't announcing or finalizing the NBA schedule until LeBron James made his decision. Now, it's going to make things easy for the league, him playing most of his games in the Eastern time zone, which should help ratings. But now, at some point in the next couple weeks, you would think that the schedule's finalized with what games are played on opening night, Christmas, Martin Luther King Day. A lot of the prominent days that the NBA traditionally dominates, we'll start hearing news on those rather quickly. But if you're a New York Knicks fan right now, you hear this news on Friday morning into Friday afternoon. You really should just be sitting there still with your feet kicked up and kind of shrugging your shoulders like, yeah, all right, okay, no biggie. You think about this move with the 76ers, as I said, the starting five is not played together yet. LeBron James, as great a career as he's had, is going to be 42 at some point this season. There's going to be a lot of load management when it comes to him. You know there's going to be a lot of load management when it comes to Joel Embiid with his lack of durability. You were able to steal from them in free agency Andre Drummond, so now they've got to go scrambling for a new backup center to provide depth there for the nights that Embiid is not in the lineup. This team doesn't have a lot of defensive versatility because with LeBron's age and Embiid's injury history, they're not going to be able to cover the ground that they have in the past. Plus, you swept the 76ers in the postseason. You look around this Eastern Conference, beyond the 76ers, a lot of the rest of these teams have gotten worse this offseason, not better. The Cavs have not made any significant upgrades. The Celtics traded away Jaylen Brown for a 36-year-old Paul George. Now you're looking at Jason Tatum, who's going to be playing his first full season coming back off of the Achilles injury. And his number 2 and 3 options on that team are a 36-year-old Paul George and Derek White. This is not that championship team where you could get away with Derek White as your 5th option of the team. I think I'll take my chances with that. The Pacers are nowhere near the team they were the last time Tyrese Halliburton played a game. Remember, Miles Turner bolted town and went to Milwaukee thinking that Giannis was going to be there long term, and now he's kind of stuck there. The Heat are extremely thin depth-wise with all of the perimeter shooters they traded to go get Giannis. And then there's that little thing that the NBA is going to have to answer for still when it comes to the, at least on the table, Kawhi Leonard to the Raptors trade that has been paused for now as they continue continue to investigate, making things very difficult for both the Clippers and the Raptors to finalize their off-season plans. So, Knicks fans, you really shouldn't be sweating anything that the Sixers are doing, anything anyone is doing this off-season. You're the defending champions. With the exception of Mitchell Robinson, you're bringing the entire crew back next year. Hell, you could argue you're going to be even better next year because even though Andre Drummond is older than Mitchell Robinson, he's more durable. And you're not going to have to run Cat into the ground playing him 40 minutes a night at center. You've got plenty of depth on this team. And until shown otherwise, no matter what the 76ers have done, whether it be adding LeBron and Jaylen Brown, or what anything the Cavs or Celtics could do the rest of this offseason, or if this Kawhi Leonard trade ever does get finalized, you're the champs. You run the show in the Eastern Conference until proven otherwise, and everybody has got to come through you. All right, a lot I want to talk about this week, give you some thoughts on the upcoming Major League Baseball trade deadline, how it's going to impact the Yankees and possibly even impact the Mets. The Yankees are going to need to make some moves, especially with the latest bad news that has come their way over the weekend. Also give you some thoughts on a big injury return for their pitching staff in the last week, Juan Soto's injury, mix in a couple other things as well. So a lot I want to talk about over the next about 35 to 40 minutes here. And like I tell you, each and every single week at this time, please sit back, relax, help put your feet if you feel like it, and continue keeping it sports with M3.
I'll be back.
As this crazy thing we call life continues to go on, as the world continues to circle each and every single day, the sun rises each morning, life continues to change. And if you're not changing with the times, you're going to be left in the dust. We see in our society more and more, as I mentioned moments ago, AI is changing things. The way we view technology changes things. The way we get information, whether it be through social media or through streaming services, the way we view things, broadcast things, things are always changing in this world. Of course, one of those things that is constantly changing is the way that sports is broadcast. I mean, now you're seeing sporting events on streaming services, something that 15 years ago you would never have even thought was an option. But whether it be Thursday Night Football on Amazon, Christmas Day games on Netflix, you have the NBA streaming games through Amazon and Peacock. Major League Baseball just recently had their home run derby on Netflix. All of these platforms are involved in this stuff, and that we're constantly seeing different ways that the broadcast media is changing. That's why it should come as no surprise the recent changes that we saw at ESPN in the last week with the amount of layoffs that there were, with familiar faces on their broadcasts, including the likes Charles Davis from the NFL Network, the former New York Jet and NFL analyst for ESPN, Bart Scott, and probably the two that popped out to most people the most were both Carl Ravage and Ryan Clark. Carl Ravitch, I don't remember an ESPN without Carl Ravitch. That's how long he's been there. He's been there part of their baseball package for over 3 decades. He was the lead play-by-play guy for Sunday Night Baseball for the last several years until they lost that package to NBC this past spring. And what was weird about his departure, him being ousted amongst all of these people, was just hours before this. And a lot of these decisions were announced on Tuesday. You started to see names trickling out. What was so weird about this ousting is Carl Ravitch called for ESPN Monday night's game between the Dodgers and the Phillies in Philadelphia. You had to figure with what we know now about a lot of these ousters that they knew for days they were going to be moving on from Carl Ravitch. So why is it you're letting him call a prominent spot there, a Monday night primetime game between the Dodgers and the Phillies, only for about 12 hours later to be booting him out the door? And who does that to a guy? And even worse, hours before that, you had Ryan Clark on NFL Live. There were certain outlets that had gotten the word from sources during that broadcast that they were ready to break about Ryan Clark's pending ousting from ESPN. And he gets called during a commercial break. You come back from the commercial break, drops to just a 3-person panel. And you had a split screen between the start. I believe it was Laura Rutledge, Dan Orlowski, Mina Kimes, and Ryan Clark. And all of a sudden you come back from the final commercial break and it's just the 3 of them, no Ryan Clark. There's got to be a better way of handling this. Or if you're someone like Ryan Clark, maybe a pro and be like, you know what? All right, yeah, I'm on my way out. I'm going to finish this show. I've been here long enough that you should be able to trust me in order to finish a broadcast, be a professional here, and know that I won't embarrass you on the air. Because he goes on the air after that commercial break, finishes up the show, and does anything stupid. It may hurt him in his future as far as getting another job elsewhere, whether he wants to latch on with Fox Sports 1 or maybe join one of these outlets as far as Amazon or Peacock, somewhere along that lines. They see him on his way out, act like that. Maybe they don't trust him. But you look at the names here, a lot of veterans in the broadcasting business, and these people are going to be okay. These people have made a lot of money. And as we've seen, as I mentioned before, so much of the game here has changed. It's not just our normal cable television and radio now like it was 20 years ago as far as broadcasting. You have independent streaming services. You have people starting their own independent broadcasting outlets as far as media is concerned. Take the political world. One of the prominent faces for years at CNN was Don Lemon. A couple of years ago, his contract ran up or he was fired, whatever the case may be. And he started a very successful independent channel for himself, continuing his work in the political world. And he's doing good. He's still making a good living in doing that. We've seen plenty of people jump into the podcast world, be very successful. Take the sports broadcasting avenue. Back in late December, early January at WFAN, there started to be rumblings. And if you're new to things, WFAN is one of the prominent sports radio stations in New York City. There started to be rumblings about one of their old hosts, Craig Carden, being on his way back to WFAN, and the upheaval that was going to have in their scheduling, and the two that were going to be casted aside for his return was going to be their midday show hosted by Brandon Tierney and Sal Licata. And they've both moved on, starting very successful podcasts that are both streamed on YouTube on a daily basis. So there are other avenues to do this. Doesn't mean your career or your life is over just because ESPN decides to cut ties with you. And ESPN, I don't want to say need to develop some morals, but you need to develop some better ways of handling things, because these are living, breathing people. Doesn't matter that you paid them a boatload of money. Shows some respect to people on the way out. But ESPN, as we've seen, they've been essentially buying up the entire world of recently, and they have a major stake in the NFL network. In fact, they own the NFL network. They own the Red Zone now. And in return, the NFL got a 10% stake in ESPN, leaving Disney with only, and I say only with air quotes, 72% controlling interest of the business. They can't just do what they used to do and hire without there being any firings along the way, especially when you see some of the ridiculous contracts that they hand out to certain people, including what they're reportedly about to give Pat McAfee. Some of these names, it's weird not going to be seeing them on ESPN, but it really shouldn't be a surprise that Ryan Clark was amongst the headline people there, because I feel like, and I respect Ryan's work. He's done a great job in the decade plus he was at ESPN. But some of his sticks, I felt, started to grow thin a little bit. One, I couldn't stand whenever, and he was not the only one that did this, but he was amongst the worst of this, the ex-pro athlete who will talk to someone on TV who has a differing opinion of them and pull out the, well, I played, you didn't card. We've all seen the clip of last year when he did that to Peter Schrager in his first couple of weeks at ESPN after making the jump from the NFL network. That came across as a little bit of Bush League. You wouldn't do that to any of your non-athlete colleagues, such as Mina Kimes, that have worked with you for years. Don't do that to someone who's new and respected already in the broadcast community. Hell, you want to do that to a rookie. Don't do that to a proven vet either. But then also, I felt like, and listen, I'm very open to having conversations about race-related things, because I understand as a white guy that I've been very fortunate to face in life and society certain white privileges that unfortunately people who are not white don't always get to face. But I felt like at times Ryan Clark was bringing up race at the wrong times, was bringing up race when it pertains to, or at least hinting at it. Recently, he brought it up when it pertained to Lamar Jackson dropping from number 2 down to 69 in the most recent top 100 player ranking amongst coaches, players, and executives in the NFL. Or when talking about Shedeur Sanders and him falling to a 5th round draft pick, right? Those weren't race-related things. I think you can make a great case on Colin Kaepernick not being in the NFL due to his race and views on racism and other things around that. Yeah, that's a conversation we can have all day, every day, because I've thought that even despite how he acted at times late in that, he was not given a fair shake. And I'm sure there's other cases along the way, even outside of the sports world, when it comes to social justice issues that we can more than openly have great conversation about. But not everything in the sports world, decisions that are made, rankings, draft picks, signings, guys getting cut, guys being dropped in ranks, guys losing a positional battle, is about race. You gotta pick and choose when you pull the race card. And I know it comes off as unfair for me to say as a white guy, but when you pull that every single time or hint at it almost every single time, that's when you start to lose people. That's when you start to have people raise an eyebrow or have people looking at you and saying, you know what, maybe this is a guy that is just not fit for this. Maybe this is someone that needs to check himself. And his career by no means is over, but he's going to have to go other avenues for now. As you've seen recently, he's been making the podcast tour. He's going to have to go other avenues in order to continue his broadcasting career, whether it's start a YouTube channel, start a podcasting channel, or latch on with one of these streaming services, because clearly the mothership, ESPN, was done with putting up with his shtick.
I'll be back.
I am all for there being rules and regulations in all walks of life. And sometimes you got to bend certain rules depending on the circumstance. But without rules and regulations, we would be going wild. We would be an apocalyptic type culture. And I understand that there are certain rules and guidelines when it comes to baseball that they've tried to adapt in the last couple of years that I am very much on the side of and in favor of. I was in favor of the pitch clock, both for and against the pitchers and both for and against the hitters. There were pitchers that were taking over a minute in between pitches, which sounds ridiculous to even think about. And there were hitters, even when they didn't swing at a pitch, that would constantly walk around home plate, readjust their gloves. You would lead to these 5-minute at-bats where there would maybe be 5 or 6 pitches. That kind of thing, I can understand why the casual fan would say baseball had become boring. But what I don't like is when a rule is either changed midway through a season or they're changing the interpretation of a rule, especially when it comes across as targeting one certain player. And in this case, it's Jose Caballero. I understand he's a pest. I understand he can be very annoying to some, especially if you're not a Yankee fan. Hell, when he was playing for the Rays and the Mariners, I wasn't overly annoyed where I'm saying, oh, this guy's an asshole, but I'm also of the mindset where I'm saying, okay, I can understand where that bothers some pitchers. I remember a couple of years ago when he was still with the Mariners and he was pulling some of this shtick that he did pre-pitch where he wouldn't acknowledge the pitcher until the 8-second mark, would be standing in the batter's box for about 3 seconds before looking up and looking at the pitcher. I could understand that getting annoying and why it got under Garrett Cole's skin, and you even saw him wag his finger at him after an at-bat when he struck him out. But what happened last week, to me, was embarrassing, was inexcusable. And it all resulted on what happened last Monday night. There was a benches clearing incident. And I say incident, it didn't turn into a fight. But the benches cleared and the bullpens cleared at the end of the 8th inning in Monday's game between the Pirates and the Yankees, when reliever Dennis Santana ended the inning with Caballero grounding into a double play, then yelled at and taunted Caballero for taking too long to get ready in the batter's box, and it led to a lot of shouting between the two of them. Both teams came out. Dennis Santana looked like an absolute psychopath with the fact that he had to be dragged off the field by 2 to 3 teammates and coaches. He would ultimately be DFA'd by the Pirates later in the week. But because of that little outburst, MLB decided they had enough of Caballero's routine of waiting to acknowledge the pitcher, where he would step in the batter's box at about the 10 or 11 second mark and then not look up till the mandatory 8-second time, where he did that on a Wednesday. Home plate umpire Quinn Wolcott charged Caballero with a pitch clock violation, leading to him getting struck out, leading to our hitting coach James Rosen getting ejected from the game. And you do this without even providing a warning to the Yankees. As the reports are coming out now, Adrian Johnson, who was the crew chief, said that MLB called us and told them, don't even give him a warning. Just tell him he violated the rule next time. That's not even fair. You got to at least call Boone, call Caballero, have some kind of conference call there and say, here's the deal. You're not allowed to do this. The second you step in the box, you've got to be immediately alert and looking up at the pitcher if you're going to make this change, or make the change in the off season. Don't make the change mid-season just because one psycho decided to go insane and throw a hissy fit, a guy who may not even be in the league for the remainder of this season. I thought that was such bull crap to make that decision. Hell, even if he wasn't on the Yankees, I think that would be bullcrap. I'm sure there's some other players around the league that are doing something, that are kind of pushing the lines of things. You got to at least announce a warning to them. Give them an opportunity to adjust, not just act like they're the lone bad guy and change the rules midstream. I mean, come on, that's kind of a bunch of bullcrap there. Now, what was a piece of good news was that happened in the first half of the day-night doubleheader that the Yankees ended up playing with the Pirates on Wednesday. What was even better news for the Yankees, beyond the fact that they got a split in that after losing in extra innings in the first game, was the news that came out of that second game with the unexpected early return of Max Fried. Aaron Boone had said when he was on with the John Boy Media guys last week that Max Fried was scheduled for another rehab start on Wednesday, whether it was with Scranton or Somerset. But once the game got rained out on Tuesday night and they had to play a doubleheader after playing a doubleheader on the previous Sunday, they decided to hell with the rehab start. Let's bring Max here and get whatever we can out of him. And boy, you've got to be doing cartwheels if you're in the Yankees front office, if you're amongst Brian Cashman and the group of nerds, or Aaron Boone and that coaching staff, because you expected Max Fried to go out there and throw about 60 pitches, but you did not expect him to be economical and dominant with those 60 pitches. Were other than the single on the first batter of the game that turned into an out when he tried to stretch it into a double, Max Fried didn't allow a base runner. He went through these innings 13 in the first, 10 pitches in the second and third and fourth, 14 in the fifth. He just breezed through this, had a fastball of over 96 miles an hour. Maybe he was a bit pumped up being his first big league start in 2 months. But he looked like the Max Fried we had come to expect. And you knew something was up months ago when he was walking guys in his starts and didn't have the command that you're used to seeing from this guy. Max Fried is not a guy that walks a lot of batters, usually even despite where his velocity can be at times, usually spots his pitches where he wants them to be for the most part. He looked like the guy that we've come to expect. We finally got to see, at least for one day, what life can be like with a rotation of Max Fried and Gerrit Cole in it together, something we've waited a year and a half to see. And now you have a rotation with these two. Cam Schlittler, who looks like the favorite and front runner for American League Cy Young, it did nothing to quell any of that excitement with his performance on Friday night, going into Philadelphia, holding them to only 3 hits and striking out 12 along the way. Just utter dominance, outlasting Jesus Luzardo. This rotation, if you get Carlos Rodon back, has a chance to be very, very special. Be the reason why they could win a World Series. The problem is you look at this Yankee lineup right now, and it leaves a lot to be desired, especially now with the news yesterday of Cody Bellinger going on the IL after he left Saturday night's game with a left hamstring strain. You hope that this is on the low end of things. You hope that he's not going to miss 4 to 6 weeks and that not too far after that 10-day on the IL, he can come back here. Because even though Bellinger hasn't hit a home run in over a month, his last home run came on June 17th. He is such an important player to this team, to this lineup, with the defense that he plays in left field. You saw how prominent he was in the All-Star game, was the All-Star game MVP, had started to hit a bit since coming back from the All-Star break after being in a slump there for a while. Without him in this lineup, it's Ben Rice, Paul Goldschmidt, who you got more than you ever could have expected out of, and then a lot of question marks, a lot of swing and miss guys, a lot of guys that, yeah, they got power, they can hit home runs, but a lot of guys that, if they're not hitting home runs, what are they good for offensively? Whether you want to talk about Trent Grisham or you want to talk about Jazz Chisholm, Austin Wells, seems like the only productivity he's had this year is via the home runs. And you look at it, he's got 7 home runs, 14 RBIs, the same amount of RBIs as Giancarlo Stanton. And Giancarlo Stanton hasn't played a game since April 24th. So this next week is of the utmost importance for Brian Cashman and the Nerds. You have got him by the first week of this gauntlet, where you're playing 22 consecutive games against teams either at or above 500. But you've got to add some bats to this lineup. You cannot just sit there on your hands and wait for Aaron Judge to come back, because you don't know when Aaron Judge is going to come back. You can't sit there on your hands and just hope and pray that Cody Bellinger comes back after the 10 days on the IL, because you don't know if this is going to be something that is just a minor thing where I know there were people at the game yesterday that said they saw him jogging and doing some light agility work in the outfield, or it could be something that lingers longer than that, because during this time, he's going to stay out of cleats for at least the next couple days, and we'll do some light jogging. We don't know. They're doing tests today in New York. He's not with the team in Chicago, but you've got to hope that he can be back on the sooner side of things. This next week, a week from today, the trade deadline is so important for the Yankees, not just because you're playing a week of games in Chicago against the White Sox and Cubs, a weird scheduling quirk there, But you've got to make some massive upgrades in this lineup. Go get yourself a offensive catcher, someone who can hit more than what you've gotten out of Austin Wells so far this season. The targets we know are going to be the likes of Ryan Jeffers and Hunter Goodman. But as I said a couple weeks ago, I don't think Goodman is realistic. And the Rockies, as much as they suck, why are they going to give up a 26-year-old catcher who they've got on team control for the next 3 years? Jeffers, to me, is the guy, and I think there's a deal that can be made there between the Yankees and the Twins. Now, with this injury to Bellinger and the possibility that Judge only comes back as a DH, you got to get another bat for the outfield, as you've got nothing in the time we've seen him from Spencer Jones. As much as I like Jason Dominguez's talents, he's been at best an average MLB player, maybe slightly below average. I don't know, but he has not exactly lit the world on fire with this opportunity that he has gotten. I think you've also, and we've heard the reports about this, make a serious thought about calling up George Lombard Jr. in the next week to 10 days. Get him up here and play him at shortstop. Enough of the scholarship, enough of the trying to force the square peg in a round hole. I don't care that he got a hit last night. It's not working here with Anthony Volpe. Even when you get a good moment from him, when he turns a game that looks like it's out of reach back to kind of a tease moment where they get within 3 runs, then you get a spot where in the 6th inning he's throwing the ball away and it lead to a 5-run inning and the Yankees are completely out of the mix of things. Lombard is better defensively than him, has a better arm than him. Yeah, he'd be making his big league debut, but it seems like there's the potential for more productivity from that bat, and you get much better defense from him than you would get from Anthony Volpe. So get me, at least along with Lombard Jr., 3 new faces in this lineup over the next week. And then you figure out what you do with Caballero, moving him around from there. I don't know, the Yankees are toying with or have talked about getting Luis Ariz from the Giants, and I would love to get him. But it sounds like they're way too committed to Jazz Chisholm. If you're going to get Ariz, I would try to find a way to trade Jazz away, but they seem, for some reason, too tantalized by what Jazz brings to the table. But I need 3 new bats in this lineup. You can't just keep going with this lineup without Judge and Bellinger as is right now and think that that is going to save the day. There's only a certain amount of times, even despite how great this pitching is, that you're going to win 3-1 games, 1-0 games. There's going to be nights where you need to mash, where you need to go on a hitting fest. And right now, you don't have that feeling from this lineup. I'm not asking for stars at every position. I'm asking for competency. I'm asking for upgrades in spots that have been clearly black holes. Will it be shortstop, catcher, at least 2/3 of the outfield without Judge and Bellinger? Hell, possibly even an infielder. Whether it's an outfielder or an infielder, we'll figure it out how we're going to fit everyone in there after that. And then add 1 more reliever. See, a month ago I would have said multiple relievers, but Blackburn and Hedrick have been such positive signs for this team. And at some point you're going to get Carlos Rodon back, so you could take whoever's not the 5th starter, stick them in the bullpen. This youngster, Angel Chivili, I believe his name is pronounced, he's come up and look pretty good. I'd like to see them give another opportunity to Giovanni Cruz. So give me 1 new face in the bullpen and 3 new faces in this lineup, including George Lombard Jr. I think all of that is realistic. I don't think that's too much to ask for, because you look at the American League. The American League sucks. There's not a lot of really good teams in this league, and it's right there for the taking for the Yankees with that starting pitching to have a great postseason and get back to the World Series. With the fact that we're looming on a potential lockout next year, you don't want a year like this with this kind of great pitching, with Garrett Cole getting older, to pass you by and say, damn, we wasted an opportunity there and wasted a chance to put ourselves in the position that the Dodgers have been in the last couple of years.
I'll be back.
As I mentioned moments ago, the MLB trade deadline is a week from today at 6 p.m. on August 3rd. One name we can now take off of the trade market. Not that I think he was ever out there. I think this was along the same lines of both the Padres not trading Mason Miller and the Rockies not trading Hunter Goodman, but was a name that was definitely thrown out there by people, was A's catcher Shea Langelier, who has had a phenomenal season, was an all-star, even despite the awful season that the A's are having, as they're 16 games under 500, an MLB worst negative 122 run differential, and have one of the worst pitching staffs in the sport with a team ERA of 5.37. He was the lone bright spot on that team. 23 home runs, hitting 260 from a catcher. That's pretty damn good. And he was one of the top defensive catchers in the sport, has a great arm behind the plate when it comes to attempted base stealers against him. But he's now gone down with a torn meniscus in his right knee that will probably cost him the rest of the season. So even though the A's had been kind of putting out the inkling that he wasn't going to be available in this trade market, this now takes him out of any contention as far as someone possibly trading for him, any contenders realistically. And if you're the Yankees, as I said before, the name to really be hunting down, chasing down is Ryan Jeffers. Now we've started to see some movement on the trade front. The first domino of this trade season took place late Saturday into Sunday when the Red Sox traded lefty Connolly Early to the Washington Nationals for Curtis Mead. The trade kind of surprised me a bit just because Connolly Early is a young pitcher. He's not even a full year into big league service time, only 24 years old, and had shown some positive signs in his first 21 starts in his big league career. And over that time had an ERA just above 3, more strikeouts per innings pitched. In 111 innings, only allowed 38 walks. Looked like a promising young left-handed pitcher. But he's been on the IL for about a month now. And during that time he was out, while the Red Sox have gone on this run, it's been primarily their pitching that has gotten the job done. And you look since July 3rd, they're 17-2. Best record in the American League. They've got the best ERA in baseball at just under 2.5, have allowed the fewest home runs, the fewest walks. So they needed to add some offense to this lineup that had had some bright spots by the likes of Wilson Contreras, Willer Abreu. Caleb Durbin has had his moments, but they feel adding a right-handed bat like Mead will provide some pop on this team. You know, think about it. If you're the Washington Nationals, this is the guy that you got for nothing in the spring. He was DFA'd by the Chicago White Sox, and he's turned in a solid season. 17 home runs in 87 games, an on-base percentage of .350, some of the best work of his young career. You don't know if that was going to continue. You don't know if that was the beginning of taking off into a potential borderline all-star, or if this was just a flash in the pan. You get a young left-handed pitcher with some talent, add this to a team that has been very good offensively, but you've been around 500 for the most part this season because your pitching staff has been awful. So I think it's a good trade on both ends of things, especially in the case of the Red Sox. You've had a great season from Sonny Gray. Jake Bennett's looked pretty good. You've gotten good moments from Ranger Suarez and Peyton Tolley, and think you don't even have Garrett Crochet back yet. He'll be coming back at some point, and pretty good back end of the bullpen with Chapman and Whitlock there. So the pitching's not been a problem for the Red Sox. They need to make some upgrades offensively, and in their mind, they might have done that. Now, a team that's going to be very interested to watch over these next 7 days is the New York Mets. It's been a dreadful season, to say the least, for the New York Mets. It's about to get even more dreadful, as you would think for at least the next month, possibly even longer, you're going to be without Juan Soto now, as he's gone on the IL with a left calf strain that they're saying is a grade 2 strain. The Mets were in contention. If they were somewhat in the mix of things, maybe he would be more in the mindset of trying to get back, trying to be ready for the stretch run here. But today is July 27th, people. As we sit here today, the New York Mets are 18 and a half games out of the division. They're 18 games under 500 with 56 games left to go in the season. They've got the third worst run differential in the National League, only behind the Reds and the Colorado Rockies. The Mets are not going anywhere. It's best put Juan Soto on ice. If he can come back and play a week at DH or something at the end of the season, just to make some people happy on days when it's not an NFL day, fine. But it's about to be a ghost town there at Citi Field. There's no reason to even consider rushing this guy back, even despite the great year he's having, which you knew he was going to have. This team is nothing without him. They went in the tank back in April when he was on the IL for 3 weeks due to a right calf strain, and that wasn't as severe as this one. I don't know why they were trying to push the envelope. I guess they figured he would not push it too much being a DH for the most part since they came back from the break. But it wouldn't surprise me if we don't see him again this year. And now the big story with the Mets over the next 7 days is who you cast off, who you trade. You weren't going to trade Soto. We know that. He's going to be signed and playing for the Mets until I'm at least 50 years old. And you weren't going to trade the likes of a Binge or an AJ Ewing, who should both be playing every day. I don't give a damn about what Luis Roberts' contract is. All of these young kids that you have here, despite what you may be paying some of these vets like Roberts or Polanco, all of the young guys should be playing every single day. Hell, I would bring Jonah Tong up here, get him in the mix of this rotation, not as some bulk guy with an opener, have him pitch once every 5 days. Find out some answers about some people throughout the remainder of this season. Hopefully Nolan McLean can remain healthy and make every start he has for the rest of the year. But you're going to start to see some guys cast off in trades over this next week. Luke Weaver will probably be in demand. Brooks Raley will probably interest people. AJ Minter will probably interest people. Left-handed relievers are a dime a dozen, and people are going to be seeking out as many as they can going down the stretch. If you get a good lefty in your pen, you're golden. Hell, you're probably going to have some people, even despite the fact he's been on the IL for the last 2 months, interested in Clay Holm. You stick him in the midst of a pennant race as a starter. Maybe it provides some new life into him after his unfortunate injury back in May. I mean, he was off to a fantastic start. But you're going to start to see some new faces on the Mets over the next coming days, not for good reasons. You hope that if you're a Met fan, it leads to brighter things to come. You can't have another season like this if you're the Mets. No matter who's the manager next year or who's running things as the GM, whether it still remains David Stearns as the head of player operation or you bring in a general manager that actually has control under him, you have to start being competitive. You can't waste these years of Juan Soto's career. That's why it's so important to make sure that this calf is fully healed before you even think about sticking him out there as DH again this year. And if not, put him in bubble wrap till next spring training. You do not want that turning into an albatross contract, have it turning into a Giancarlo Stanton-like situation with you guys where he's always seemingly hurt. This is one of the premier generational offensive talents in our sport who's still in the prime stages of his career. And you want to capitalize on the absolute best from it. Well, this is going to suck. It's going to hurt some of the faces you see walk out that door in the next couple days on the pitching end of things. You've got to capitalize on those trades and hope that that helps build you a better future and that you're not wasting years of Juan Soto's career. And that, my friends, was Keeping It Sports with M3 for Monday, July 27th, 2026. Everyone, please have a great night. Have a great rest of your week. Remember, folks, you only got one life, so you might as well try to live it up to the fullest. And I'll talk to you guys again, same time next week. Until then, peace.
We have to go. Good night, everybody. I have had enough of you. Thank you for all the fun. Thank you. Hey, shut up, will you?
I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear you. I don't want to smell you. Now leave. I'll be back.